Okay. So good afternoon, learners. This is the first live meeting for this course on consumer psychology. And I see a few of you here. Uh, so we'll start with the traditional way of doing it. I hope you started enjoying the course. And as we move forward in the course, you will learn a lot more about consumers and the psychology of consumers. So technically, this session is supposed to be an interaction between the learners and me. And I'll dedicate especially this section to all those questions that you have regarding the course. In between, I'll also focus myself to certain questions which have been put forward to me through this discussion forum, to this question forum. So then, without delaying further, let's start this online interaction. So all those people who are listening to me, if you have questions about this course, you can put those to me and I'll try to answer it with the best of the knowledge that I have. And I hope that will satisfy your curiosity. So it's time for you to ask questions. In the meanwhile, before you start asking questions, come online and start asking questions. Let me take some questions from the online forum. And so I have Ritvik asking me, what do I think about consumer behavior? What is my opinion about consumer behavior? So a very nice question. I'd say a very basic and fundamental question. And what I would define consumer behavior is the reaction of consumers both to marketing stimuli and to products. Remember, the basis of consumer behavior, or the basis of study of consumer behavior, is the fact that consumers don't buy products and services. What they buy is the benefit that these products and services offer. These benefits help consumers in realizing the needs or fulfilling their needs and giving them the satisfaction that they are thinking of getting by using the product and services. So the study of consumer behaviors can be looked at from various viewpoints. Two interesting viewpoints is from the focal position of a consumer, as in all those psychological factors within the consumer that affects his behavior in terms of buying, and another viewpoint which is external to the consumer, which relates to the marketplace where the consumer is making the purchases or making the buying. So all in all, my understanding of consumer behavior, or my explanation of consumer behavior, is studying those external and internal factors which make a consumer or which make an individual make an intention and finally realize this intention in terms of purchasing a product or services, and thereby reducing the gap that has come, or the gap that has been created between his actual state and the desired state he wants to be in. What I mean by this is that narrowing the gap between this is to mean that how satisfied he becomes or how much benefit he gets by using the product. So that is very briefly what I think about consumer behavior. You are all online, a number of people are online. I'd ask you all to ask the questions so that I can answer as I move forward in this session. So learners who are here with me, it's time for you to start asking questions. So while you start this business of asking questions. Let me take another question from this forum. And so I have Irfan asking me, I would like to request you, sir, to please add this course for postgraduate level. Irfan, I think this course is already for postgraduate level, so it is both a UG PG course, and so anybody who is in the undergraduate program or postgraduate program can opt for taking this course. Then I have Kajal Sonkar asking me about payment. So I guess you're asking me about the exam fees. That I think you have to look at the NPTEL SWAYAM website, and they keep on updating when to submit the exam fees. So that would be a much better option. तो website देखें, उस पे आपको पता चल जाएगा payment कब करना है. And then you have a couple of more people, but they have no questions as such. So a lot of questions from this response sheet on consumer psychology. I'll request all those listeners who are with me here to ask questions regarding this course or questions which come to their mind while doing this course. So kindly go forward, ask the questions, and uh, let me answer those for you. So learners, it's your chance to ask questions. And for those people who have joined us late, uh, as I explained to you, this is the first online interaction between me and my learners. So the course that you are joined is consumer psychology. This is an opportunity for you to ask questions regarding the course or questions which is relevant to this course in a one-to-one as in the face-to-face situation. So do ask your questions. I'll try to answer those questions for you with the best knowledge or the knowledge that I have about this course. Manik has a question and he asks, is the validity up to 15th August? What is the validity? If you could be a little bit more specific on what validity you're asking. And so Rucha had her hand up. So Rucha, if you could ask a question.
Hi, sir. Should I put in the chat window or can I ask it like this?
Yes, please go ahead. Ask a question.
Yeah, I didn't have a question related to the course itself as such. I just wanted like, what are the future career prospects if I plan on doing MSc consumer behavior?
Yes.
Yeah, so I've done my BA in economics, and I'm planning to go to the UK next year for doing MSc consumer behavior.
Okay.
So what like after my MSc, what are the career prospects? Is it only marketing, or is there any other opportunities as well?
Okay. So let me tell you about what your future would be or what kind of jobs would you land up with this particular course. Consumer psychology is a part of psychology, so most of the things that learning up is about psychology, and this is kind of an applied science. So you would get a good opportunity in you could get a good opportunity in terms of marketing, in terms of the organization, or in terms of consumer research or consumer sciences. By doing this course or by focusing on some aspects of this course, you'll also learn a little bit about psychology or an individual psychology. And if you so wish, you can also proceed further into doing scientific research or getting a higher degree out of it. So there are two ways to look into it. One, joining the industry or joining a company or going that way, or other, you can also shift to do further research in studying how consumers react to consumer situations or basically market situations and understanding the psychology of the consumer. So these are the two things that you can do. You can either go to a research field, uh, proceed forward, go to a PhD degree, and then further on develop models and test certain things, psychology related things, or you can join a company and get a good position out of there. You could be in advertising, you could be in market studying, you could be in any uh, applied uh, applied research or applied field of psychology. So that's this is the most I can think at present. Okay, so I hope you answered your question for you, Rucha.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, so other people would also like to ask questions. Uh, so you're all here online. It's a good opportunity for people to ask questions. So whatever your questions are, you could ask locally, since we prefer this online meet now. So you can come online uh, without video and ask your questions. And I think asking questions is the best way to learn. Okay, so Pankaj, Priya has a question. Yes, Pankaj. Okay, one thing, am I audible to all of you? Can you hear me? A simple yes and no would do.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine, fine. Great. So if you have questions, please go ahead and ask those questions. Siddhant, okay, thank you, Siddhant. So we got that hurdle out uh, of our way. So you can hear me, I can hear you as well. So I'd request you to ask questions. This is a good opportunity for you to be online with or in a face-to-face interaction with the person who's teaching you the course. So things have changed since this course was floated. Market research has changed. Also, I also welcome you to ask questions related to the psychology per se, because my field of expertise is psychology. So if you want to ask questions specific to the course, you're welcome here. You can also ask non-specific questions related to psychology. So my training is in experimental and cognitive psychology. If you wish to ask questions from there, you can do that as well. Or any generic question which you think I can answer for you, please ask that. What I'll do is with the knowledge, the background that I have, I'll try to answer the best, give you the best answer possible. So market segmentation, market bonding, Siddhant. Okay, very good. So basically what happens, Siddhant, is that in market segmentation, what we tend to do is we divide, we don't actually divide the market. The market is there, bonding concept. Great. So what happens is that the market is already there and it's already differentiated. What most companies try to do is they employ people who would find the best segment for them. So understand, this segment is hypothetical. You cannot divide people. So what you do is you pay people money, and these people go into either use secondary data or a primary data, and based on that, give you the best possible profile of people based on either demographics or in terms of some other variable. They hypothetically divide a market or divide a particular zone of people, number of consumers, in terms of whether they fit or whether they fit the profile of a person who should be taking your product, given that I am a manufacturer. So market segmentation is dividing the market. In market bounding, what we tend to do is the process of taking your product and matching it to the consumer that you are interested in. Now, what would happen is when I segment a market, there would be several criterias I would use to differentiate a market, and based on that, let's say there's a market for a new type of electronic gadget. And manufacturer believes that this gadget will 30 years of old, so we'll hire people to go into the market and see who will buy this particular product. Let's say it's an electronic device for wireless communication. Now, these companies will go into the market and find out who among the consumers within this particular age range are interested in this kind of a product, right? So what they'll do is when finding people interested in it, they'll use a number of variables. And based on that, they'll find the likely consumers who's going to use the product. In segment bonding, what we tend to do is we take now the product specifically and the segment specifically and find a match between only those variables which we use in segmentation and which is kind of an exact match with the population that we have. So while segmentation, although we use a number of variables, if we reduce this variable in terms of the product characteristic and try to bind it up, this is what is called market bounding or segment bounding. Okay, so I had another question. We go to the question. So that is what, as I said, bounding, the bounding variable or the bounding factor works in terms of how specifically you are matching the product characteristic with the segment characteristic. While segmentation, we take a number of variables of segmenting, but while doing we specifically reduce the variables in terms of consumer characteristics. So we only choose those variables which are kind of a good match. That is what is segment bounding or the bounding concept, right? You can also read a little bit more about this if you look at some of the books that I have prescribed, and they'll tell you a little bit more. But that's in very brief, what is the basic difference between these two concepts. So I hope that's clear for you, Siddhant. And if there are other questions, you may ask them. In the meanwhile, what I'll do is I'll also kind of give you a brief on what this field is all about. So generally speaking, how I designed this course was great, Siddhant. So what I did was I looked at a number of textbooks available, and based on that, I decided to make the course in such a way that I divided the course into two parts. The first part of the course looks at the basic process through which a consumer goes through while buying a product. So the initial part or the first section would tell you about a little bit about the psychology of or the field itself of consumer behavior. And then further on, the next three sections introduces you to something called consumer decision process or consumer decision making. Understand that while buying products, there are two types of consumers or there are two types of product situations. One is a high involvement product where the consumer gets involved with buying the product. Why he gets involved? Because either the price of the product is very good, the amount of risk associated with buying the product is very good, the kind of psychological time investment that you're doing is high, and so for whatever reason, the consumer is maybe the motivation or your expertise in that area or your likingness to that particular product. For whatever reason, the consumer gets involved in it. There are other kind of purchase situation, which is called a low involvement purchase. And in that, what happens is that the product is such that the consumer doesn't really want to get involved too much with it in terms of reading about it, understanding about it, finding information about it, and so on and so forth. I'll take a pause here. I'll take another question. So one more thing. Could you explain the question number 7 of week 2 quiz? Siddhant, what I'll do is these questions related to assignments, I'll ask you, I welcome you to put it into the forum because I don't have the quiz right in front of me, right? And most assignments are prepared by TAs. So what I'll do is you put the question there in the forum. I'll get back to you while after looking at what the question actually was and what the answer was provided and what your doubt is. So I welcome you to do there and I'll be giving you the answer there. Come back to how I was explaining what I was explaining about low involvement segments. And so low involvement segment is a segment where people buy things and they don't really get involved in it. For example, in a high involvement segment, I can consider buying a laptop or a car. where people spend a lot of money, there's a lot of risk and a lot of investment from the consumer side. People don't buy car every day or every month or every year. Uh, Leaving aside a few of us who have a lot of money, but most people, the middle class as you call them, they buy it once or twice in their lifetime, and so they invest a lot. And so this is a high involvement product. So they go through every aspect of it. What is the price? What is the design? How many cars are available? What is the best? We can do a lot of research on it. On the other end is think of it as buying a packet of biscuits or buying juice or salt. So these things people generally don't go looking for a lot of information about these products. So what they do is they look for a product or look for what is best for them. They go into the market and buy it. They don't think about it. So there are the two segmentations. Now, when buying the consumer, any consumer, when buying a product or utilizing a service, goes through a 5-step process. The first step is getting acquainted by about all the products which are available. And the next thing is understanding whatever the product has to offer. So the first is kind of knowing that the product exists, and the second is whatever the product has to offer you, understanding what the advertisement is saying, understanding what the product has to offer to you, and commit it to memory so that later on you can remember this and start utilizing this. Now, these are the first two steps of the EKB model or the consumer decision model. Generally use the EKB model in explaining it. So these are the first two steps. Once you know that a particular product is available and it offers a certain benefit, and you also understand what benefit it is offering and how it is useful for you, and you also remember this product, comes the third and most important step in consumer decision process, which is called the decision process model. In the decision process step, there are 5 steps, or there are 5 equivalent divisions. You start with something called realizing that you need the product. So first, the consumer has to convince himself that whatever product he has heard about or whatever product is available, whatever he has learned from the marketplace, whether he needs it or not. And so that is called realizing the need. Once he realizes the need, that this is what the product I want, he goes to the next step in which he searches about the product or searches about what kind of information is available about the product. Remember, in the first two cases, he has just encountered with a certain kind of product which may help him, and he has committed that to memory. He has not searched about all the benefits, all the information related to the product. In step 2 of your consumer decision process, this is exactly what he does. Goes into the marketplace, so either does an internal search or external search, and gets a little bit information about the product. These searches that we are talking about the product can happen either before the purchase of a particular product or service, during the purchase of a product and service, or it could be after the purchase, or it could be an online search, or it could be an ongoing search where it can continue in all the 3 processes. So let's say that you're buying a new laptop, you search something about it, you bought it, and now you're searching some more information about what you have bought. And after the purchase also, during the purchase also you are searching information about it, and after the purchase also you are searching a lot of things. This is called an ongoing search, where right from the point of time that you decided to buy a laptop to the point of time that you already used it and you are making some kind of opinion about the product, you are still searching for more information about the product. This is called an ongoing search. So this is the 2 steps that can happen. Now, once the 2 steps are over, once a consumer realizes that he actually needs a product or service, and also search information about that product or service, available to the product or service. Yes, Risha? If you have a question, I'd be more than happy to answer it. Okay, so uh, by the time you become ready for asking the question, I'll continue with what I was saying. So these are the first 2 steps. Now, once a consumer is sure that he has a need of a product or service, and he also realizes and collects information about this product or service, which he thinks would reduce his difference between his actual state and desired state, which is basically he wanting something to benefit him. He goes into a third process, which is called alternate evaluation. In alternate evaluation, what a consumer generally does is looks at a number of products which offer the same kind of benefit that he's looking for in the marketplace. So he uses various kinds of techniques, various kinds of models, and based on that makes the choice. When he's making the choice, what he's doing is he's choosing among a number of alternatives, maybe two, three, or whatever the alternatives are available, the best alternative that is going to serve this purpose, which is going to serve him the best, which he thinks will serve him the best. And the final part of this design or this process is the post-purchase evaluation or the post-purchase step. In here, what the consumer does is once he has bought a product, he either gets satisfied with it or he gets dissatisfied with it. If he's satisfied with it, he continues to buy the product again and again and thus become brand loyal. If he doesn't, he goes into the second step. And in the second step, what he does is he becomes dissatisfied. He voices his opinion to several ways against the company. So this is the first section where we talk about how the consumer makes decisions. Further to it, in the next section, we look at several psychological factors within the consumer or the consumer psychology, which helps the consumer make decisions about buying a product or help him in finalizing what product he needs. So before I move forward, there's a question by Siddhant. So let's take that. Locus of control theory. My voice is not clear. Bablu Chauhan, is my voice clear now? And Manik asked the question, Aspen software validity. What is an Aspen software? So I don't know. Maybe I'll ask the team over here to explain to me what is an Aspen software and what is the validity. In the meanwhile, I hope my voice is clear to you. So if a simple yes and no would be good. Great, Pankaj. So the locus of control theory. Uh, Great. So I hope it's okay with you, Babul, Bubul, what's your name? Babul, your name was. So if you could be so kind to let me know if you can hear me right now and clearly that too. So locus of control theory, I'll explain it to you in terms of psychology. So the locus of control theory comes from the field of psychology. It was proposed by someone called Walter Levin. Walter Levin was a social psychologist and he came up with the idea of locus of control. What is the locus of control? The basis of locus of control comes from post-psychoanalytic psychology and particularly Alder, where he explains about something called a little bit about complexes or the idea is somebody there are you can divide people into two groups. One try to explain it in the most minimum or the most minimal way. So you know that most people have something called personalities, right? Now, what locus of control says is that, or it defines is that individuals as such what is the meaning of this? If I try to expand it a little bit, or if I try to merge it with Alder's concept, there are two kind of people in the world. One are called the introverts and the other of called extroverts. Introverts are those people who do not look outside of themselves for motivation or for some kind of approval for whatever behavior they are doing. Anuj Kumar, so I'll stop here. I'll give you an answer in a minute. So in the problem solving session, the TA told that due date will be extended for assignment will be 2. is it going to be updated or not? So Anuj, what I'll do is again post this question in the forum. I'll ask the TA to get back to you, or I'll myself get back to you. So post this question there, and I'll get back to you. Again. So my video and audio is breaking in between. I'll talk to the people here and find out what is the reason. It's working. So I get an approval saying it's working. So maybe it's some network issue. So I'll ask you to get to a better network area, and we'll have a much better conversation that way. Uh, from my side, I'll make sure that it's good. Okay. So I was talking about locus of control, and so we are talking about introverts and extroverts. Introverts are those people who uh, depend on self, or they look inside themselves for any kind of approval. They don't care what the world thinks, and they do what is best for them or what they think is best for them, and they live by their decision. On the other hand, you have extroverts, or you have people having an external locus of control. And so what external locus of control people mean, or feel dependent people mean, or your extroverts mean, is that these people always look for people outside of themselves. So in the society to get an approval. So whatever they do is for people outside of them. So for example, if they wear a dress, they'll ask people, or they look for people's approval, whether the dress is going good or not. On the other hand, you will often come what people come to meet people who don't even care what other people think. They should look good, and they should uh, kind of look good to themselves. If they don't do things for the society, this is what in a very basic meaning is the difference between the external locus of control and the internal locus of control. Locus of control means that what controls your behavior? Where do you put the control of your behavior? Every person has a behavior, and this behavior has certain controls. So where do you put this control? If you put it external to you, you will have to look for people outside for approvals, and everything they say and they do will control your behavior. On the other hand, if it is internal to you, you will kind of be an introvert, and you will ask yourself for approval, and that way you will be controlling your behavior, or you will be in charge of your life. So who and both the extroverts and introverts have their own benefit. Extroverts have a good social understanding, a good social understanding, but and the self-esteem is also governed by, or the self-worth is also governed by people outside of them. On the other hand, if you're an internal, or if you're one of those people who are introvert or internal locus of control, you don't care about the world, you care about yourself. Your world is around you, and you don't look for approvals. But then there are times when you look for other people, they won't help you because you don't help them, or you don't get good with them. So both the groups have their own benefits and their own uh, pluses and minuses. This is in brief what is locus of control. So Siddhant, I hope I've answered your question. Uh, and that is what I can think about the locus of control. Right. So as I was explaining to you, and I'll also invite other people who are here to ask questions if you have any, uh, either regarding the course or outside of the course, anything related to psychology as such, and let me see if I can answer them for you. So the first part of this course is to deal with these aspects of how the consumer makes decision, and what variables are involved, and what is the process, and so on and so forth. The next section that the course covers is factors, or certain psychological factors which help the consumer in making these decisions. So there are a number of situational variables and psychological variables which help the consumer in making decisions. And some of the variables that we study in this course is related to consumers' memory, consumers' attention, consumers' thinking and problem solving. It has to do with consumers' attitude. It has to do with consumers' motivation, the consumer's learning, and a number of other, I think 4 or 5 variables we have taken step by step, and we try to explain these variables and how these variables interact with, or help, or I'd say attenuate the modulate the behavior of consumers. So this is how the course is divided. Second part focuses on psychological variables which make consumers make decision. First part looks at how the consumers decide, and in addition, a little bit about what market factors are there, and introduction. So this is how the course is divided. So if you have other questions, I invite you to ask them to me. And I hope I have answered the questions which have been put to me in a way that is understandable. So please. Uh, so I think there is some problem, Dilip, because I don't think we work with CO2 capture in Aspen Plus. So I think you're in the wrong room or in the wrong meeting. Or if you could elaborate a little bit about what you wish to ask, maybe I'll be able to help you more. And Anuj, as I told you that put this question onto the forum and I'll be happy to answer your question. Okay. Okay, great. Final evaluation exam, offline, objective or subjective. It will be an online exam, Siddhant, the final examination, and it will be an objective type uh, uh, setup. So there'll be objective questions be you would be answering. So that's what the format of the exam is. So other people, if you wish to ask questions, please go ahead, ask your questions. I'm here for you. I'm trying to explain to you or to provide you the best answers possible with whatever I know about this field or whatever I know about psychology. You have this opportunity, so better utilize it. Uh, let's learn. So you learn something from me, I'll learn something from you, and that way how the learning proceeds. Okay, great. So your questions, I'm still waiting. If you are listening to me, if you joined on this platform with me, whatever your questions are, whatever you think you wish to ask, please go ahead. I hope I'm audible to you because I've got to keep checking this. It might so happen that you might not be able to hear me and I'd be saying it all over again. So that thing is, if you are able to hear to me, a simple yes and no would be good. What are triggers? Are they negative aspects of marketing? Um, I wouldn't say triggers are negative. So basically, how do we look at triggers? In experimental psychology, trigger is something which makes you do an action. It's kind of a cue. If you have seen role plays or if you have seen dramas, a trigger is a kind of a cue or a kind of a stimulus or a kind of a uh, event which lets you do a particular action. Now, are there negative aspect of marketing? No, they are not negative aspects of marketing. This is basically a way of marketing. So certain triggers are used in marketing. For example, uh, you might have an emotional trigger. Sometimes emotions are used as a trigger. Sometimes comedy is used as a trigger. So a trigger is basically an event which makes you feel positive towards or make you feel appealing towards the process of buying. Um, Right, so I hope that answer was good and somebody is uh, asking what Aspen. So is there another thing also going? Okay. So I have a question here. What are the fields of study in cognitive psychology, Navya? So cognitive psychology, if you look into it, it studies a lot of field. It covers a lot of field. Human cognition includes things like attention, memory, perception, decision making, problem solving, uh, and other higher aspects like thinking. These are some of the basic, I'd say, basic parts of cognitive psychology. So right from perception where a stimulus which is external to you is encoded into your system or encoded into your brain, or I would say the mind, and a mental representation of is created to the point of time where this particular perception is analyzed and a motor response is given for it, or response is given for it, whether it is motor or non-motor, all aspects in between would be covered by cognitive psychology. So in brief, cognitive psychology is study of human cognition. So all those mental processes and mental acts which make you think and behave, which makes you behave or respond to a stimulus is what is the field, or what is the matter or fields that come inside cognitive psychology. My specialization in cognitive psychology is to do with memory, basically. So I'm looking at memory, and sometimes I also look at something called attention. So these are the two fields that I look into, and the other fields of cognitive psychology as well. So I hope that answers your question, Navya. So other people who are interested in asking questions, you may go ahead, ask questions of whatever you want to learn about this course or whatever queries that you have. Okay, thank you, Navya. So other questions, if you have, please, all those people who are with me here, I hope you have questions you wish to ask. So go ahead and ask your questions. Anything that people here wish to ask about this exam, about this field of cognitive psychology? I'm sorry, the field about consumer behavior. So in this field, we talk about consumers, we talk about how they make decisions, we talk about those psychological factors which help a consumer making a decision, a profitable decision, and what is being brand loyal, what is understanding a brand, and those kind of things that we look into. So if you are interested in any of these questions, you can ask me here, and I'll be answering those to you. In any ways, if you don't think of a question right now, or if you have a question and you don't get an opportunity to answer this question, you can put that question in the forum, the question forum. I can answer those questions there. I also have my email, so you can visit my website, look at my email, send a personal email to me, and as and when the time permits, I'll give an answer to you. So these are the methods how you can reach me. If you have questions, you can ask those to me. So send it on the forum, send it on uh, through my email. You can put a question here. Attitudinal loyalty and behavioral loyalty. Have we actually reached this uh, attitudinal loyalty and behavioral loyalty? I don't know. But anyways, let's see the difference between that. Attitudinal loyalty has to do with your attitude being in line with the product. So let's first understand what is attitude. Attitude is basically, yes, Praveen, if you have a question. Okay, yeah, I'm answering that for you. So Praveen had a query. Praveen, can you answer? Can you put up a question? I hope you are hearing me. Okay, so I hope Praveen is not able to hear what I'm saying. As I was saying, let's understand a little bit about what attitude is all about. So attitude is basically a combination of three factors. It is a person's belief. In addition to that, it is a person's uh, cognition, and it is so belief, your affect, and your behavior. What is the meaning of this? Let's say that there is a brand and I have an attitude toward a brand. Let's say Colgate. I have an attitude towards a Colgate. What is the meaning of that? First part is to do with something called your belief. So your belief or what you think about Colgate or Hindustan Lever for that matter. So this comes from your values, from people around you, from your own experiences. You would have developed a viewpoint about this company, and that comprises of your cognitive part or uh, uh, your the cognitive system or your belief system. This is what you know about the company. But then while using the product or while using products of Hindustan Lever, you may either like it or you may not like it. And this is called the affective component. So you would have a view about the product and you would also feel something when you use a product. The third component of an attitude is called the behavior component, which basically means what would I do when it comes to buying the product? Do I buy it or not? Now, when a person's view and their effect, so what they think about a product and what they feel about the product, they are in line and they also act in terms of what they view and what they feel in terms of product, which is either buying or not buying. This is called an attitudinal loyalty, or this is called a perfect attitudinal synchrony. So what you know about the product, what you feel about the product, and what you do in terms of buying or not buying, if they are in line or if they are in a perfect match with each other, you have something called attitudinal loyalty. In terms of behavioral loyalty, what would happen is you might believe something else. You may not feel about liking the product, but behaviorally speaking, you buy it. Let's take Indian Railways, the website. Now, when you're booking a ticket, you may not like Indian Railways and you may not feel good about it, but then you buy tickets because there is no other option. It's called undifferentiated marketing. So there is only one way to go through it, which is through the government channel of buying it. So what would happen there is that you would not, you would have a negative view about it and also not like it, but then while buying it, you're doing a positive thing, or you are positively buying it, or you're buying it actually. Technically speaking, if you have a negative view about something and you don't like it, you should not go ahead and make a purchase, but you buy it. When that happens, there is something called a cognitive dissonance. So what you say and what you believe and what you do, there is a difference between them. And when that happens, it creates a tussle between that, and that is called cognitive dissonance. So attitudinal loyalty is a loyalty in which what you feel, what you know, and what you do are in line with each other, or you're loyal towards the product in terms of what you know about it and what you feel and what you do about it. Behavioral loyalty is a loyalty in which you only buy the product. While buying a product, you're loyal to it, but when speaking about the product or when defining the product or liking the product, you are not so positive or you're not so in line with what you are saying. So this is the difference between the two kind of loyalty. I hope I answered your question. Pankaj, Priya. Okay, thank you. So any other person? So Praveen has his hand for a long time. So if you can ask a question, Praveen, or other people who are here, if you can ask a question that you wish to ask. We are nearing the end of this session. So this session is a 1 hour session. We are already uh, 50 minutes past 3 o'clock. So which means that we have 50 minutes past the time. There are 10 more minutes left. If you have some questions, you can ask. If you have questions and you could not ask it here, or you cannot think of a question right now, you would like to ask a question at some point of time, there are multiple ways to reach to me. Write me an email, get my address from the institute website, or the MOOCs would give you my email. You can write to me. You can also send a query or post a query into the uh, course query system, which is basically the discussion forum, and I can answer the questions there. So these are the two ways where you can reach me. And of course, the third way is doing this online session. So here itself, you can ask me questions. So again, as I said, there are some 5 or 7 more minutes left towards the end. If you have a questions, I'd ask you, or I'd rather invite you to ask your questions, whatever you have regarding this course or towards psychology in general. Any questions, learners, for me? Anything that you wish to ask? We are ending towards, or we are nearing the end of this session for you. We will have another session, and so there take up more questions. And you also have this forum, which is called response forum, where you can post your questions and I can also take questions from there. So anything that you wish to ask? We are nearing the end of the session for today. I'm waiting for you. Please ask questions. Anything, learners, people? So Biju S, thank you. This question I have answered, but very briefly again, the module. So there are two parts. The first part introduces you to the consumer decision process. So how the consumers decide. And the second part of the course looks at those psychological factors which modulate behavior of consumer in the marketplace. So the first part describes the consumer decision process in detail, and then the second part looks at factors like attitude, like personality, like your memory, thinking, mood, involvement, all those factors, psychological factors, how they jointly affect the decision making, decision making capability of the consumer. So that is how the course is divided, basically two basic modules or two larger modules. So that is what the course is divided into. So other people would like to ask questions. Please go ahead, ask questions. We are almost ending or towards the end of this session. Okay, thank you, Biju. Then so learners, please, if you have questions, go ahead, ask them. So I hope we don't have further questions. So with the belief that I have answered your question to your fullest satisfaction, or at least on some satisfaction, what I'll do is I'll conclude this session for today. And I wish you the all very best in terms of learning about this course. So what I'll do is I'll sign off for today from here from this MOOC studio. Let's meet in the next session where I'll take more questions. As I already told you, there are multiple ways of reaching to me with your question. You can post it on the discussion forum. You can put it on the response guide or response forum that you have. And also you can get to me through this live session. So there's another. Okay. So this is all for today from this MOOC studio. So I'm signing off. Thank you for being here. And it was nice answering your questions and interacting with you. Thank you.